So today we're going to work on finding math models. And so what we do when we have a set of data is we type it in, and you need to make sure that you have a header. So this is the header. It contains the quantity, which is the height of the stick, and it contains the units that it's measured in. And then the data must be just numbers, okay? You cannot type inches in all of these boxes or the computer will not be able to graph it. So once you have your data, and I already give that to you, we're going to highlight the data. We're going to go to Insert Chart. This will pop a chart on our screen. Then over here in the wizard, we've got to make sure we choose Scatter Plot. So scroll down until it says Scatter Plot, and you've got to see your data on there. Okay? The next thing we're going to do, since it looks like it's a nice straight line, is we're going to customize it. So we're going to click on Customize, and we're going to do a couple things. The first thing we're going to do is go to Horizontal Axis, scroll down, and make the minimum 0. Okay, that way the graph goes all the way to 0, 0. We need to see the intercept on the graph in order for us to make use of it. So once we make that 0, we can collapse the horizontal axis. We want to find, this looks like a straight line here, and so we want to find the equation of that straight line. So we're going to go to Series, and under Series, we're going to add a trend line. And that shows the line, and you can see it's a very nice fit. The data falls right on the line. If we scroll down a little more over here, under Label, choose Use Equation. This is going to tell us the slope and the intercept. Okay? Now, the slope is 1.4, so it helps if you just jot that down, because we're going to need that in a minute. So the slope is 1.4, and the intercept, it's kind of written in a goofy way, but I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to go to Series here and make this a little bigger. So I'm sorry, under Legend, I can make this size a little bigger so it's easier to see. There we go. Okay. So the intercept is 1.42 times 10 to the negative 15. Okay, that is really, really tiny. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at the graph. If it looks like the graph goes pretty darn close to 0, 0, the intercept, we're going to ignore the intercept they give us. We're just going to call this a straight line that goes through 0, 0. Okay? Even if this number here is not 0, if it's small, and by small I mean less than 5% of the y-axis, then we're going to ignore it. So our slope is 1.4 and our intercept is basically 0. So now over here on the right side, where it says Label for our trend line, we're going to go to Custom, and we're going to write a math model, a formula that explains the relationship. So math models look like this. Y equals m times x plus b, and that's an equation, so it's equals. Now I need to change the variables. On my y-axis, I have the length of a shadow, so I'm going to use L for the length of a shadow. On the x-axis, instead of x, I'm going to use h because it is the height of the stick. Instead of m for the slope, I'm going to put in 1.4, which is what I wrote down a minute ago. 1.4 is the slope, and we're going to call the intercept 0, so we are going to ignore this part over here. So there's my math model. The length of the shadow equals 1.4 times the height of the stick. Okay? So that finishes up with the math model. I'm going to collapse Series. I'm going to go to Chart Title and Subtitle. My title is going to be the relationship between the, now I need to put in what is on the y-axis. We always put this in first. So it's the relationship between the length of a shadow and the height of the stick that caused the shadow. So this title's two lines long, and that's totally fine. Okay? So that's the title of the graph. We always say the relationship between the y and the x for, and we put in the context. Okay? All right, that's the title. The subtitle is going to be the conclusion. Because I have a straight line that goes through 0, 0, the conclusion is going to be that y is proportional to x, except we never use y and x. The conclusion needs to be a sentence. So I need to put in what is on my y-axis. So the length of the shadow is proportional to, and then I need to go over here and take out x, and that is the height of the stick. Okay, so that's my conclusion. It makes it this funny gray color. I'm going to change it to black so I can see it. So that's the conclusion, and I'm just going to type conclusion here like that. So what you've done is you found a mathematical model for the data. I can close my wizard. By the way, because I had the correct labels at the top of my data tables, the labels on my axis are right. Okay, it should say the height of the stick in inches and the length of the shadow in inches. Okay, so we found a math model. We have found an equation which represents the pattern in the data. Okay, so my math model, I'm going to type here in my summary, is L equals 1.4 times H. Math models are equations, so it's got to be an equation. My conclusion has got to be a sentence, and that is going to be the length of the shadow is proportional to the height of the stick. Okay? And once you've done that, you've finished this first lab. Okay? The goal of the lab, when we get a set of data, is to find the math model and to find what kind of a relationship it is. Your math model needs to be an equation. Your conclusion needs to be a sentence using proper English. Okay? No symbols or mathematical notation in there. We're going to write it out. So that finishes the first one. All right? So what you're going to do is see if you can do that. Your graph should look like mine with the same slope. And then when you get finished with that, you're going to try it again on your own on the second tab down here. So we just did stick shadows. Go to wires and do the same thing. Okay? So graph your data, find a mathematical model, change your variables. I'll give you a hint. For temperature, we would use T. For resistance, we would use R. And see if you can find the math model and the conclusion. Okay? So that's the first step to get those first two tabs done. When you get that second one done, then you can move on to the next one, bus rides, and there will be a video to show you what's going on there too.